For joining us. An absolute pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network, a network presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. The best dispensary in Charlottesville is Skooma Boutique Dispensary with locations on the downtown mall and on Elliowood Avenue. A lot we're going to cover today. Excuse me. We're going to chatter some community response and some community feedback to two topics we chatted yesterday that have undoubtedly gone viral across social media. The first topic was the shooting that took place on Sunday evening near Tonsler Park. After yesterday's program, the commissioner of the league, Dr. Wes Bellamy, released his official statement, the statement from the Tonsler League. His statement very much in line with the theme or the motif of yesterday's talk show. We'll let you know how, why, where, and when on today's program. We will also highlight how the community is responding. This is the I Love CVille Show. The essence of the I Love CVille Show is what's the community's mood? What's the temperature of the community? How's the community feeling? We'll give you some feedback from stakeholders in Charlottesville and Central Virginia when it comes to Sunday shooting outside Tonsler and what they think the Tonsler League should do. That topic on today's show. We will also chatter on today's program the feedback and the fallout from the Champion Grill closing. Turns out the closing of Champion Grill in Stonefield surprised many an employee at Champion Grill. To say they were not given fair notice is probably an understatement. We'll talk about the community feedback to the surprise closing, which we announced here, of Champion Grill, what team members from inside the restaurant are saying, and many have reached out to us between yesterday's show and today's show. We're going to talk Hanover County Public Schools getting closer and closer and closer to gender-neutral bathrooms. In fact, the Hanover County School Board office was packed last night as the school board first read its proposed transgender bathroom, gender-neutral bathroom, locker room policy for students. This looks like it's going to happen. Going to happen. We'll give you some thoughts on this. We'll give you ideas of how the money could be allocated differently on today's talk show. We'll chatter inflation potentially cooling. I've said for nearly a month now that I think inflation has peaked. It's cooled. The CPI number, Consumer Price Index, was released this morning, and it's lower than expected. And markets are responding favorably with green across the board, including the tech-heavy NASDAQ surging nearly 3%. Now, before we get excited and ahead of ourselves, I'm going to compare and contrast 2021 versus 2022 from a price increase standpoint. For example, year over year, the price of gasoline is up 75%, 75.6%. Gasoline, 44%. Fuel, 75%. Electricity is up 15% year over year. Food for your house, we're talking groceries, 13% year over year. New cars, 10% year over year. Public transportation in general, Uber, 9.2% year over year. Food away from your house in restaurants, 7.6% increase year over year. So while it's a positive that potentially inflation is cooling or has plateaued, you still have massive price increases for Americans, for Virginians, and for Central Virginians. Today's number, here's the positive. The consumer, the average worker, has an additional 0.5% in monthly wages at his or her disposable income. So there are some positives here, but it's a matter of perspective when analyzing and dissecting the data. We'll talk Danville, Virginia, a story passed along to us from Travis Hackworth in the comeback city. Danville, Virginia has got some details with its Caesars casino that it's released. This is going to be a behemoth of a project, $650 million, the casino Caesars in Danville. A project that is undoubtedly going to be a tourism and economic development driver for Danville and the broader region. I mean, you got new jobs, you got hotels, you got legal gambling, you got a designated outdoor refreshment area in Danville where people can walk downtown with a beverage in their hand. You got Danville partnering with development companies from Wisconsin to convert old mills into high-end housing, much-needed housing for the region. I cannot wait to showcase what I think is a bullish, thriving, positive momentum-backed city and region in the comeback city. That story on today's edition of the I Love CVille Show. Your comments are always welcome. You can put your comments in the feed. I will relay them live on air. We also appreciate questions if you'd like to dictate the pace and tempo of today's show. We'll go to the two-shot. We'll welcome Judah Wickhauer to the program. So first, good afternoon, Judah.
Good afternoon.
We know this. Yesterday's show was quite impactful. The feedback received from yesterday's show that I personally received was significant. Everyone from friend of the program, Jim Hingley, the Albemarle County Commonwealth's attorney, to coaches in the Tonsler League, to a couple of players in the Tonsler League, and stakeholders in the community reached out and said thank you for standing up for us and trying to understand or offer perspective of the plight of the league. We'll set the stage. Sunday, a shooting happened near Tonsler Park, few blocks away, handful of blocks away as the crow flies. That shooting, unfortunately, disrupted a basketball game at the park, a basketball game that made up Sunday activities for the Tonsler League. The Tonsler League is a phenomenal street ball league in Charlottesville and one of the last epicenters in the city of Charlottesville for people of color from an entertainment standpoint. Seriously. You're black, you're brown, you're a person of color. What is the number one concern you have of the city of Charlottesville? It's entertainment. What are we going to do? What is there for us to do? This is a topic of conversation. So the league feels unfairly threatened. And I said yesterday that some of the commentary that's manifesting itself on social media is commentary that's not rooted in what's best for the community, but instead it's commentary that's rooted in, for lack of a better phrase, racism. People are quick to jump on the league and say the shooting happened because the league was hosting basketball games in the park. That's not fair, and that's not accurate. After yesterday's show, the commissioner of the league, Dr. Wes Bellamy, former city councilor here in Charlottesville, Virginia, a man who undoubtedly has tremendous supporters and a tremendous amount of detractors. Very polarizing guy, Dr. Bellamy. You're very pro Dr. Bellamy or you're very against Dr. Bellamy. He issues a statement at around, early evening yesterday, late afternoon, a couple hours after our show ends, and he says on Twitter, there was no shooting at Tonsler Park, and the fact that you all are saying this is irresponsible. The shooting took place in a neighborhood away from the park. This language perpetuates the negative stereotypes that many have. Do better. I agree with him. This is the entire point I made yesterday and what Judah and I vehemently disagreed upon.
We disagreed upon...
Yeah, you said you weren't seeing on social media that people were labeling the league as the reason for the shooting. Those were your exact words. And I then said, Jude, I don't think you have any idea what you're talking about. That's exactly what happened. We can roll the tape back if you'd like.
No, I'm not denying that I said it. I'm just clarifying that when I was scrolling through the what I saw there.
Through your personal feed that's limited, that does not have a ton of diversity in it.
It's your feed.
No. Because I was the one that's saying with my feed that I'm seeing the attacks happen. So if you were reading my feed as I do every day, you would have seen what I saw.
Okay.
You jumped to conclusions yesterday.
No, I didn't.
I mean, we can play the tape back if we need to.
Again, I'm not denying what I said. I'm just saying I didn't see what you were saying.
You took a judgment call based on what was in front of your nose as opposed to a macro or holistic perspective.
I wasn't meaning to say that you were wrong at all. I was just saying...
Well, no, it's not me that's wrong. It's Dr. Bellamy and the Tonsler League that is getting attacked by the community because some of the communities say the shooting happened at the league.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean to say that they were wrong or lying in any way. I just meant that I hadn't seen it in the feed.
Well, now you know that it exists to the point where the commissioner of the league has to issue a statement to combat that inaccurate connotation, if you may.
Sure.
I mean, he issued the statement. You read the statement, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he straight up says in the first sentence of the statement, there was no shooting at Tonsler Park, and the fact that you are saying that there was a shooting is irresponsible. He says this language perpetuates the negative stereotypes that many have. Here's the question that I have for you. Okay? I'll straight up cut to the chase. You want me to cut to the chase for everyone? Let's say the Tonsler League is not on Cherry Avenue. Let's say the Tonsler League is not a street ball league. And let's say the Tonsler League is not dominated by phenomenal African American athletes. Instead, let's say the league is a basketball league on a court in the YMCA. Take it a step further. Why don't we do one that actually exists? Let's say this is the Virginia Basketball Academy, VABA. Ben D'Alessandro's fantastic basketball league called VABA, the Virginia Basketball Academy. He's come on this talk show before. And this guy, VABA, the phenomenal league in Charlottesville, has a game going on at Albemarle High School. And in the neighborhoods right around Albemarle High School, there was a shooting. How would the community respond in that circumstance to VABA, a predominantly white league that does not have street basketball connotations or denotations? How would the community respond to a shooting happening around a basketball game when it was the Virginia Basketball Academy's league going on, as opposed to the Tonsler League? I think you would find the community responding very differently.
No doubt.
Here's another concerning aspect of life. So is friend of the program James Watson watching today? James Watson, are you watching? He's the king of orbit. He's brought this up to me multiple times, and he's exactly right. Okay? I'm going to go to James's Facebook page, which I'm doing right now. Do you know there's two young ladies that have been missing for a substantial period of time? Zayla Christmas and her sister, Beautiful Christmas. These little girls are 13 years old and 11 years old. 13 and 11. In fact, Judah, I'm going to send you something that you can put on screen for these ladies. These girls, 13 and 11, sisters, have been missing for weeks. Okay? Now, a recent announcement came that they're now considered runaways and not kidnapping. But that recently came out over the last couple days. They are considered runaways now and not victims of felonious kidnapping. Here's the question I ask for you, or ask of you. Okay? And these are difficult questions and difficult topics. But they're topics that we certainly have to ask and chatter about, especially, and Judah, get those on screen when you can, especially less than 48 hours ahead of the A12 anniversary. Judah is going to show you photos of an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old sisters that have been missing for weeks. These two beautiful young ladies are African American. The lack of media coverage, media attention surrounding the disappearance and the missing nature of Zayla Christmas 13 and Beautiful Christmas 11 is concerning at best, nauseating, infuriating at worst. If an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old were missing, and these two girls happen to be, say, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and white, I can assure you the attention and the momentum behind their disappearance would be exponentially more significant and noticeable than what's transpiring with Zayla and Beautiful Christmas. It's almost non-existent, the media attention. So I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to ask you two questions to get you thinking and to get you conversating and to challenge you. If Sunday's shooting near Tonsler Park had happened instead near Albemarle High School during a Virginia Basketball Academy League game, a VABA League game, Ben D'Alessandro's league, a predominantly all-white league. If that shooting had happened near Albemarle High School and interrupted a VABA basketball game, would the community have responded in the same way it responded when the shooting happened on Sunday near Tonsler Park during a street ball league game of a league dominated by African American players? Because I think the community response would be quite different if it was happening during a basketball league, a VABA basketball league game at Albemarle High School versus Cherry Avenue and Tonsler Park in a street ball game. Secondly, and you may not want to hear this and this may make you uncomfortable, but guess what? It's time to get uncomfortable. You have those photos on screen?
Just about.
He's about to put them on screen. Judah Wickower, our enterprising director. If these two young ladies, which are about to be on screen, tell us when. If these two young ladies were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and white young ladies, I can assure you they're on screen. Look at the screen now. Look at these beautiful ladies. Look at these beautiful girls. Our future. If these two young ladies were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and white, the community response to their disappearance would be considerably different than what it is now. Considerably different. And that might be awkward commentary that makes you feel awkward or uncomfortable or kind of makes you bristle a little bit. But you know what? Sometimes we need to be challenged, especially when we're less than 48 hours from the 5-year anniversary of A12. Less than 24 hours from the 5-year anniversary of tiki torches lighting up the UVA lawn like twinkle lights on an evergreen Christmas tree on December 25th. Kevin Higgins has a comment, the King of Greenwood. I'm so confused. Why does it matter where the shots came from? I honestly don't see a connection to what Dr. B is saying. I've coached kids in multiple sports for years, and I'm so grateful no one was hurt at Tonsler. Does it matter where a psychopath fired a gun? I don't consider race when it comes to a public park. I feel like I'm going crazy here. Great comment from Kevin Higgins.
I tend to agree as well.
Well, you guys are in the single-digit minority.
I don't know about that.
The commissioner of the league issued a statement
Yes.
literally saying that they're getting lambasted, which is the opposite of what you're saying.
No.
How so?
You're implying that everyone is against them.
No, I'm not. I've never said that. Not a single time did I say that.
Okay.
Now you're the one putting words in people's mouths.
No.
Never did I use the phrase, everyone in the community is against the Tonsler League.
You just said single digits are the only people that are for them.
No, that's not what I said. I said single digit percentage think that where the shooting happened doesn't matter.
Right.
People think where the shooting happens mattered.
Not everybody.
They're attributing the shooting to
I get it.
what goes on with the league. That's what's happening here.
I know, I get it, Jerry.
That's like saying, that's the same mentality. That's the same mentality of someone saying, oh, look at what she's wearing. It's a skimpy outfit. It's barely clothing her at all. She deserved what she got. That's BS. That's crap.
I agree.
That's literally like, that college girl
You're preaching to the choir.
That college girl walked down the street late at night in a skimpy outfit. She deserved what she got. That's BS.
Yeah.
That's what's happening to the Tonsler League.
I know.
Would that be happening if it was Ben D'Alessandro ahead of the league and not Wes Bellamy? Would that be happening if the games were held at Albemarle High School with white kids as opposed to Cherry Avenue and Tonsler Park with predominantly African Americans? I sincerely am asking that question, not only to you, but to the viewers and listeners.
I know.
I don't think it would be happening. Do you think it would be happening?
No, of course not.
Right? I mean, you got people. Did you see some of the comments after I posted the statement? Dr. Bellamy's screenshot from Twitter on the I Love CVille group. Did you see some of the comments underneath it?
Yeah.
How would you characterize those comments?
Antagonistic.
At best.
Yeah.
Would you not say that?
I just did.
Would you say rooted in?
I'm not going to say the word. Go ahead.
Rooted in evil?
No.
Nastiness? Racism?
I'd say racism a little closer.
You don't think racism's evil and nastiness? I would choose your words very carefully right now. It shows yours, dude.
Shows mine? Okay.
I'd choose your words very carefully right now. But the show is yours.
All right. Yes, I would say that some of the comments sounded racist.
Right? I mean...
And I would certainly agree that that people trying to make a connection between the black community playing basketball at Tonsler Park and somebody shooting a gun, doesn't matter how far away. Someone trying to make that connection is clearly. I mean, I would laugh if I wasn't disgusted.
There you go. Carol Thorpe watching the program. She's the queen of Jack Jewett. She says, it's not the first time the Christmas girls have run away from home. I posted their alert on my Facebook page this time and the last time they took off. That's a fair comment, Carol. That's a fair comment, queen of Jack Jewett. I understand that as well. I got a question for you, Carol. And you know we respect your opinion considerably here on this fair and fine talk show. If the Christmas girls, 11 and 13, were blonde, blue-eyed, and white, how do you think the community response would be to their disappearance? I'll ask you that question as well. We talk...
I honestly don't know. I mean,
You don't know?
No, I don't.
Have you seen how the national media or the global media covers the disappearance of an American when they travel abroad and get lost?
Sure.
When the national media, the American media, sees a pretty, young, white girl get lost while traveling abroad or traveling in general, kidnapped, hurt, they exploit the hell out of that story. And it gets attention that folks of color do not get from the national media. Here's a good example. Carol, help me remember this. Is Sage Smith, transgender, murdered in this area, 9-10 years ago. Still to this day have not found Sage Smith's killer. Someone Google Sage Smith, Charlottesville, Virginia. Sage Smith.
Disappeared 2012.
So we're talking 10 years ago. They have not found Sage Smith's killer. You have a transgender African American female, was a man, was a boy, transgender, converted to female, murdered a decade ago. If this was what? Give me a big name that has disappeared in travel, an American that made national headlines, that captivated the country.
Why travel?
Because those often make the national news. Jean-Benet Ramsay. Does anyone remember the name Jean-Benet Ramsay?
Yeah.
The child model. Do you remember that saga and how it captivated the country?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to explain is the systematic, subconscious, unrealized systematic, subconscious, unrealized way that people go about their lives, that whether they want to admit to this or not, have elements rooted in them of racism. You know, there's this old saying that goes, you can't judge a book by its cover.
I've heard it.
That saying's bogus. Human nature is judging things by their cover in a first glance. Certainly in the era of social media and smartphones and having things at our fingertips immediately, we're a rush to judgment culture. As Bob Yarborough mentioned to me, we are a first to report, last to do research type of culture. Let's get it up on social media immediately, and then we'll deal with the collateral damage and the ramifications later. The Sage Smith 10-year-old murder, if this was Morgan Harrington instead of Sage Smith, there would be freaking documentaries, Netflix movies. There would be national and regional media continuing to cover the murder of Morgan Harrington 10 years later unsolved. But it's not. Instead, it's a transgender African American that was murdered 10 years ago. It just shows the inequality. It shows the inequality.
Okay.
Let's get to comments. Lisa Costello. Lisa's got some pointed commentary. The show airs on 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, LinkedIn, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram. I mean, it's everywhere. Lisa Costello says this: I saw the video share of the shots fired at near Tonsler Park. The shots could be easily heard. Even the people in attendance took off running, scattering the scene. I have noted some commentators who happen to be black have expressed concern about safety. If the shooting had happened at Albemarle High School, we would be able to openly talk about safety without offending anyone, Lisa says. Lisa also says, if we cannot talk about safety at Tonsler Park because the majority who play ball there are black and play street ball, then we are being racist by not being concerned about safety in an area frequented by the majority black population. You want to touch that?
Yeah, there's some sense in there, but I also think that nobody's made a connection between the shooting and the basketball game. So to come in from the outside and say that we know what's best for the league is, if the league feels threatened, then they will do something about it. They'll either talk to the city about getting cops to show up. They could bring in some other type of security, be it off-duty cops or whatever they feel is sufficient to their needs. And so outside armchair quarterbacking, I don't feel does any good to the situation.
Well, I couldn't disagree with you more. Could not disagree with you more.
So
and I think the autonomy.
You think we should decide for them what?
No, I think the decision may be even taken out of their hands and then be positioned in the decision-making powers of the city. Then you're going to see truly folks respond with their true colors.
Okay.
If the city or the council or city hall or the city manager or CPD get involved here and say, hey, we're concerned what happened last weekend, let's move it, or we're going to give you security on our own without your say.
And you think that's a good thing?
No. I don't think that's a good thing. I never think it's a good thing when government tells private business, and Tonsler's a business and it's private, what to do, or imposes their will, or oversteps their bounds.
Okay.
And I don't think anyone truly wants armed people patrolling a park and a basketball court.
I agree.
You go to the park and the basketball court to get away from everyday stress. It's an outlet, a relief, an escape valve. And that relief, that escape valve, can be convoluted or disrupted by seeing armed people walking around your escape valve or your relief. You with me?
Sure.
So what should the league do now? If I'm the league, I go business as usual, and I prove last Sunday was an anomaly, and I have Thursday and Sunday of this week in the most successful and safe way possible. That's the only plan of attack. If there's tomfoolery and shenanigans, and God forbid a shooting again, then you got a PR nightmare on your hands. You got a PR nightmare on your hand. And you better figure out a PR strategy and talk to somebody like me who understands PR strategy and science more than most.
Okay.
Because the perception is hanging in the brink right now of this league. You give me that,
I'll give you whatever you want.
that's the most awkward response I've ever heard.
I mean,
this is a talk show where you have folks watching you to hear what you have to say.
Jerry, you've been antagonistic this entire discussion.
No.
So, yes. Yeah, I agree with you. Sure.
Okay. Placating people is not going to win any
I'm not trying to win anything.
equity for you. And as multiple people, and this is a fair point. Carol Thorpe has highlighted this, as have a couple of DMs. Sage Smith is not technically deceased. She's disappeared for over a decade. But technically, we don't know if she's deceased or not. Okay? Nobody, like your corpse, has never been found. Carol says, however, Sage's aunt, Tanya, was recently a murder victim of the person dubbed the shopping cart murderer after answering his online ad for a date. I saw that, and that's also unfortunate.
Damn.
Oof. All right, let's go to the champion topic. So we let you know yesterday that we were hearing rumblings of Champion Grill closing. We got that confirmed. Obviously, any restaurant that's closing especially one that's run and owned by a young 30-ish entrepreneur in Hunter Smith. Any restaurant that's closing is doing so most likely due to finances, to overhead, to just not making enough money at the location. You don't bring enough customers to the location, you can't meet your overhead for that particular location, you close the doors down. That's what they did. Now the question I have for you, the viewer and listener, how the closing happened, what do you make of it? We've had many people within the champion community reach out to us saying that the closing happened without any notice. Employees, no notice. I always found it, Judah, disturbing that an employer wants 2 weeks or more of notice from his or her employee.
But won't give it in return.
But the employer, when he or she, and you see this a lot in restaurants, chooses to close, often it's with a note on the door, like happened at Champion. Or with no notice. The employees find out the day of that they're closed. So they don't have a source of income, and they're left scrambling for jobs. The Champion story has a lot of nuance to it. There's the shocking nature of closing overnight from an employee standpoint. There's the sticker shock of rent in Stonefield as it applies to locally owned businesses struggling to survive there. And then there's the feedback we've received on social media about businesses in Stonefield from a former general manager on the I Love CVille Facebook group. I encourage everyone watching this program to go to the I Love CVille Facebook group. Not the Facebook page, not the I Love CVille Instagram, but the I Love CVille Facebook group. Once you're on the I Love CVille Facebook group, make sure you follow the group so you're up to date with everything, and then scroll down on the group to a Google map that shows Champion Grill closed. When you see that Google map, scroll down and read the comments under that post. There's nearly 100 of them. Of the nearly 100 comments on this page, some of the comments come from a former general manager of Stonefield. Her name, Samantha Strong. She is chiming in with firsthand perspective of when she was running as general manager the shops of Stonefield. She talks about how the shops changed ownership, and when ownership changed, price points became more reasonable for locals. She talks about local businesses, the ones that have survived in Stonefield. And interestingly, in that feed, excuse me, Janet Dobb, who has come on this program, who we respect quite a bit. Janet Dobb of the Bagel Ladies, along with Cynthia Viejo. Janet Dobb leaves a comment, and Janet would leave comments like this unless she has some inside intelligence, that Williams-Sonoma and Pottery Barn were paying next to nothing in rent. Now, I don't have this verified. She's referencing an employee who passed this along to her in the comments. She uses the money, $0 for Williams-Sonoma rent. She says when faced with renewal over $0, Williams-Sonoma chose to close.
Wow.
I can't confirm or deny this. I'm stipulating this for the record so no one can hold me accountable. I'm relaying what was left in the comment section of this group to you so you can decipher or make your own mind up on your own accord. I will say this. If Williams-Sonoma and Pottery Barn signed on to Stonefield with a lease that required them to pay $0 or very little dollars a month to this shopping center, then there's going to be a lot of locally owned businesses and customers in this community that are going to be irked and pissed off.
No doubt, and rightly so.
Rightly so, because those same advantages were not given to locally owned companies, the ones where the dollar really matters to them. Williams-Sonoma paying $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in rent, that's pocket change to Williams-Sonoma. Champion Grill, Parallel 38, Jason Alley's Pasture, Little John's, Duck Donuts, Mincer's, Splendora, paying $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 in rent. That's the difference between them making money over the course of an entire year or losing money. It means a lot to them. Now, some people will say, look, the shops at Stonefield early on, they needed commitments from big brands to gain momentum. And what you'll see in a shopping center that's coming to market is phases of announcements or phases of signings or phases of development. You get in at a new shopping center in phase 1, you get the lowest rent because the developers or the leasing agents leverage the phase 1 signees to get phase 2 signees. Hey, Williams-Sonoma and Pottery Barn just signed on with us. You know they have high-end clientele and they have good foot traffic. Don't you want to sign on here? If you do it in phase 2, you're going to get just slightly higher monthly rent than Williams-Sonoma and Pottery Barn. You roll it out in phases. You try to get sexy brands in phase 1 because the momentum behind signing a sexy brand in phase 1 generates interest from other, perhaps not as sexy brands in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, etc. Now, if the phase 1 perks, the signing bonuses, or what Janet is talking about, the zero rent, and I'm not confirming or denying that, but if it's the case, you got some issues. And locals will have some issues. Do you think I'm reading this one wrong, Judah?
No.
This is a talk show.
No.
You've got to say more than one word. You've got to talk on a talk show.
You asked me a direct question.
Okay.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think
This is a talk show.
I think you're right. I mean, stop being a dick.
No one's being a dick. You're doing a talk show and you're saying no. When you're one of two people on a talk show.
I agree with you.
Okay, offer some perspective.
I can't if you keep interrupting me.
This is every day.
Okay.
Okay, what is your perspective on this?
I agree. If they're charging zero for big companies, it's a kick to the nuts to all the local companies that are going broke trying to fit into a big space where they're hoping for a lot of foot traffic.
There you go. Instead of just saying no, offer that from the get-go.
Okay.
Like all the other talk shows in the world do. All the other ones in the world do it that way.
All right.
Thank you kindly. Respectfully, thank you. Jason Howard, the king of Rio, watching the program. Brick's Pizza did the same thing. They stripped out all the equipment and they left overnight. He's exactly right. It's exactly what Brick's Pizza did. Brick's Pizza, the Island Pad at Barracks Road Shopping Center. One of the highest rents in Charlottesville is that Island Pad that is now going to be home to Brazos Tacos. The most expensive rent in the city of Charlottesville for a restaurant. We have crystal balled as Ralph Sampson's Tap House at Barracks Road because of the size of the restaurant. It's massive. And because it's an island pad business. pulled in front of the shopping center out of the actual strip itself. Travis Hackworth watching the program. It's not uncommon for restaurants to close without notice. Example, here years back, Lone Star Steakhouse was open and full Saturday and Sunday, was closed for good. Employees came to work with a note on the door. And he's right. Unfortunately, what happens is the restaurateurs choose to close without giving notice because they're fearful staff will leave for other jobs and or potentially steal food and other stealable things before the business closes because they don't fear losing their job because the business is closing. Still doesn't make it right. Still doesn't make it right. And if you get a reputation for doing things like this, you're going to start risking morale, loyalty, and losing some of your top talent. And frankly, it's just the goal. It doesn't follow the golden rule mindset. Lisa Costello says the back and forth with you and Judah is hilarious. Sometimes I watch just to see and listen you two go back and forth. I have to do it every day.
Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa Costello. Every day for 10 years I've been dealing with this. The very opposite personalities of Judah Wickower, the introvert, and Jerry Miller, the extrovert. Wow, a lot of comments coming in here on the feed. Let's go to Curtis Shaver. Thank you for saying that. Gabby, how do I say Gabby's last name, Curtis? Executive chef, part owner, Peloton Station. Damn good restaurant, Peloton Station. 7 days a week, Peloton Station. Is it Gabby Petito? Is that right, C-Shave? In fact, Lauren is saying the same thing. She's including Gabby in the fix. Is it Petito? Let's Google, everyone Google image Gabby Petito, P-E-T-I-T-O. Type her name, Gabby, G-A-B-B-Y, and Petito, P-E-T-I-T-O, and put it into Google image. I mean, you'd say an incredibly, very pretty girl. It's no shock to anyone watching or listening to this talk show that NBC News, CNN, ABC, the New York Times, the AP, and all the other media outlets can exploit a story like this. You take a picture of a very pretty girl like Gabby, you put it on the news, and you use words like missing, kidnapping, killed, disappeared, location unknown, and we're gravitated to the story. Why are we not gravitated with the same momentum and frequency and intensity to the Christmas sisters? Zayla and Beautiful. Do you have any?
I mean, I don't know the story about Gabby Petito well enough to judge the differences between this and their story.
She was killed by her fiance while traveling across the United States about a year ago. She disappeared, went missing for a considerable period of time. They went to Wyoming and then back to Florida. He killed her, went on the lam. The family offered a reward. She was murdered by manual strangulation.
Yeesh.
It was the toast and talk of the national media for weeks, if not months. Weeks, if not months. I'll close and get to the next topic with this, and I'll ask you this question. And I want you to think about it and talk with your friends and family, maybe over the dinner table, cocktail party, wherever you have these kind of conversations. This is going to be a very succinct question for you. The national media determines what it covers based on how us, the consumer, the reader or the viewer, responds. Obviously, the national media is running the Gabby stories with momentum and intensity because we, the consumer, are responding to those type of stories with momentum and intensity. Why do we, the consumer, not respond with momentum intensity when it comes to Zayla Christmas and Beautiful Christmas like we do when it comes to Gabby? Is her last name Petito? Is that what it is?
I think so.
Why do we not respond the same way? And I'll leave it to you guys to ask yourself that question while looking in the mirror. Handful of other topics. This one is a follow-up from a few weeks ago. Hanover School Board is going through a mess right now. A couple of weeks ago, we relayed to you that the school board in the Hanover County, Virginia, about an hour from here, wanted to roll out gender-neutral bathrooms in an elementary school. Do we still have the photo of those bathrooms?
I think I can probably find it. Let me see.
If not, no big deal. I know this is on the fly. That was weeks ago, so if you find it, that'd be great. If not, no big deal. Last night was the parents' first time to talk with the school board. And guys, the meeting was chaos. It was chaos. You had moms and dads, dads and dads, mommies and mommies, single moms, single dads, grandmas, guardians, grandpas, mimas and poppies, at arms, enraged, in a fury. One of the parents made this comment, and it resonated with me. One of the parents at last night's Hanover School Board meeting: we're struggling to find bus drivers. We're struggling to find teachers. We're struggling to staff the damn school. And you want to add a process that's going to take 3 months or more into what we have to deal with as parents post-COVID. I don't have time for this. We don't have time for this. You are oppressing the already oppressed. So here's my take. Look, public schools and gender-neutral bathrooms, that's going to happen. That's the future. The bathroom rendering is on screen. Thank you, Judah. Job well done. Everyone look at the screen, please, so you can see the gender-neutral bathrooms for Hanover public schools. I'm going to be very succinct and to the point with this. The gender-neutral bathroom is going to happen in public schools sooner than later. Hanover County is going to be the first. It's going to create a wildfire, keeping up the Joneses effect, and it's going to slowly become the way for bathrooms in public schools. That's going to happen. If it irritates you, just prepare yourselves. I'm setting expectations. It's a very open-minded, we'll leave it at that, mindset in public schools these days. Here's the question I want to ask instead. At a time when public schools are being marginalized and commoditized more than ever before, at a time when people are sprinting for public school enrollment, sprinting to have their kids in private schools because of COVID and the lasting impacts that COVID had on education, we really saw the delta or the gap between public and private education over the last 2 years. Private school students were going to school in a classroom in person 5 days a week, and they were learning from a teacher that was 10 feet in front of them. Public school kids were learning in the coat room, the mop bucket room, the spare bedroom, the basement closet, in the utility shed, That's how they were getting their geometry, their ABCs, and their history lessons during the pandemic. At home, virtually. The delta is noticeable and significant. We're talking wider than the Rivanna River, this delta. Why in a time when public school education is being more commoditized than ever before? Why at a time when public school education and public school enrollment is dropping quicker and at a faster clip than ever before? Why at a time when the government is considering a voucher system where they're going to value a year's education at a public school and say the price for your kid to go to school that's covered by the state and by your local jurisdiction is $17,000, $18,000, $16,000 per student. Whatever that number is, here's a check. You can take that $17K and you can utilize it for private school education. It may not cover the entire tuition, but it's going to cover a large chunk. That's literally happening now. At a time when schools can't get bus drivers, at a time when schools can't get staff, at a time when schools can't pay teachers to stay in their jobs, at a time when teachers aren't entering the profession, at a time when critical race theory is at the forefront of chatter when it comes to public schools, explain to me why you add another wrinkle or another layer to the onion. Explain to me why you would open another Pandora's box. Why wouldn't you use the millions of dollars that's needed to convert bathrooms or to create bathrooms into gender-neutral bathrooms? Why wouldn't you take that money instead and pay teachers more and get them to stay and teach our kids? Why wouldn't you take that money and pay bus drivers more so kids don't have to walk 20 minutes to school? Why wouldn't you take that money that is allocated or earmarked for gender-neutral bathrooms and said, you know what, it's probably not safe for kids to ride public transportation to and from school. Let's pay bus drivers more so we can get kids on school buses and instead of kids on trolleys. Or kids walking 20 minutes to an elementary school. I am all for open-mindedness, inclusion, quality of life. I am all for kids getting treated the right way. I read something on Facebook earlier today, and it was about going back to school. Back to school is happening right now. You're seeing the kids posing with their moms and dads or holding like a chalkboard and saying, today's my first day of third grade. Today's my first day of seventh grade. Senior year of high school, 1 year left. That stuff's happening right now. And this mom left this post, and it really resonated with me. And she said, look, before, as our kids are going to school, it's time to teach them to be inclusive of everybody and not to put people down. And she referenced some kids are going to be coming to school with used backpacks because their parents can't afford a new one. And the mom said this, and I'm going to read it to you verbatim. Read it to you verbatim. It really resonated with me. Classes are almost starting, and I want to ask you a favor. Sit down with your child for 5 minutes and explain to them that being very tall, short, chubby, skinny, black or white is not a joke. That there is nothing wrong with wearing the same shoes every day. Explain to your son or daughter that a used backpack carries the same dreams as a new backpack. Explain to your son or daughter and teach them not to exclude anyone for being different or not having the same possibilities as one. Explain to them that teasing and making fun hurts and they go to school to learn and not to compete. The line that really resonated with me was this one. A used backpack carries the same dreams as a new backpack. I want every kid to be able to go to school, whether it's a used backpack or a new backpack, and feel included and safe and ready to learn. And eventually, because that's where the world's going, gender-neutral bathrooms will be needed to embody that mindset, inclusion, safety, quality of life in schools. It's going to be needed. My concern is priorities. Why would we allocate limited budgets that are decreasing because public school enrollment is dropping, and schools are funded based on enrollment and how many kids they got in the hallways? Kids aren't going to public school as much. They're going to private. And that number's dropping, public school enrollment, so the budget's going down. In a limited budget, shouldn't we take the money and pay our teachers and staff and school bus drivers? So we have talent and human capital educating our kids? If you were a teacher and you're 10 years into your profession and you can't afford to live in your community, you barely can afford your rent, and you're working a couple of side hustles just to pay your bills, aren't you going to be pissed off and irked that the limited budget's being spent on some bathrooms instead of paying you? I would be. Maybe that's why the teachers are leaving. Maybe that's why they're not even getting in the profession to begin with anymore. Look at the numbers they're dropping. Go do this job. You're going to be underpaid. You're going to work long hours. You're going to have to spend your own money on school supplies. You're going to get crap for raises. In your school system, they're going to prioritize some toilets and some plumbing and some toilet paper and some bathrooms over helping you build the future in the profession you chose to help other people. What am I missing here? What am I missing? Anything you'd like to offer from that perspective there, J-Dubs, before we go to the next topic?
Yeah, I think the same could be said for a lot of industries, and I don't think there's an easy answer, because it's not just, I don't think it's just that the schools are unwilling to pay the teachers a better wage, just like it's in a lot of industries. It's not that the restaurants, the retail places don't want to pay their employees more. And I don't think it's just a matter of we've got a surplus.
School systems have different levels of pay that they can offer.
Yeah.
Albemarle County's at a different pay than Charlottesville. Louise is at a different pay than Charlottesville.
Yeah.
So school systems can determine what they pay their teachers.
Yeah.
School boards determine how a school budget is spent.
Right.
There's different line items. Salaries for teachers, salaries for bathrooms, or money for bathrooms. You can take money for bathrooms line item and say, no, let's put this into salaries for teachers.
Would that be
School boards literally do that.
Salaries for 1 year or salaries for the foreseeable future?
School board determines the budget every year.
Okay.
Humans determine how money is allocated in public schools. The school board does. And they can determine how the money is spent and who gets that money. If we are not careful, we are going to diminish, we probably are already at this point, diminish the depth of talent in critical careers. Teachers teach the next generation. Nurses save lives. People aren't getting into teaching because there's no quality of life or money to be made. People aren't getting into nursing because there's no quality of life or money to be made. You got arguably two of the most important professions in the world: nurses and teachers. And we've made it we've made it so difficult to survive and pay our bills as teachers and nurses that the talent is choosing to pursue other career paths. Or heck, even being told by their parents that are teachers and nurses, you don't want to do this. This is what it did to me for 30 or 40 years. That's got to change. Two other topics. I want to talk inflation cooling. So the good news this morning was the consumer price index came in below expectations. It's still at 8.5% year over year. So July this year, July last year, it's 8.5% more expensive this year than last year. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But the number that checked in this morning was expected to be higher. And because it came in lower, markets respond favorably, they're green, and the expectation is come September, Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chairman, is going to roll out a rate hike that's not as aggressive. Maybe half a point versus 3/4 of a point. It's positive. Inflation may have peaked. You see gasoline's going down. You see groceries are going down. You see a boatload of housing stock on the market. It's not flying off in 10 minutes like it was. The inventory is there because the rates have gone up. Wait till you see what happens with appliances, microwaves, fridges, dishwashers. Wait till you see what happens with garage doors and lumber and hardwood floor and granite. That's going to come back in stock again. You're seeing the inventory levels at the big box retailers starting to get very robust to the point where the inventory levels are now concerning that they're doing fire sales. There's tremendous indicators that inflation has peaked. And yes, that's calls for positivity. But I want to put it in perspective. And how I'm going to put it in perspective is by looking at some elements that make up CPI, like gas and utilities and electricity and groceries and transportation and food away from home and used cars and medical care. And I'm going to give you a year-over-year snapshot of how dramatic the increase has been. Gas year-over-year is up 44% nationally. Utilities, 30.5% up year-over-year nationally. Electricity, 15.2% year-over-year nationally. What was $100 in electricity in July of 2021 is $115.20 in July of 2022. That's expensive. That's up a lot. Your groceries, 13.1% year-over-year nationally. You're eating out, 8% year-over-year nationally, an increase in price. Medical care, 5% year-over-year nationally. Sure, CPI came in cooler than expected. And perhaps inflation is plateauing or peaking. But good night. Our dollar's still stretched super thin. Our dollar is stretched so thin right now, all our money is eating is Slim Fast and Weight Watchers. There are no steak and potatoes for the $10 bill, the $50 bill, the $100 bill in your wallet. There's no cold beer for those $5 bills, or those $1 bills, or those 50-cent pieces. You got Slim Fast shakes and Weight Watchers. That's how thin the money is. And lastly, this is from Travis Hackworth, the King of Danville. Caesars Entertainment has formed a joint venture in Danville with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
Images on screen.
You got it on screen. Travis sent you those images? That's fantastic.
Sent us the images.
Fantastic. Good job, Judah. Excellent work getting this on the fly. Thank you. Thank you. Great work. You got a $650 million casino coming to Danville. 500 hotel rooms. A world-class gaming floor with over 1,300 slot machines, 85 live table games, 24 electronic table games, a World Series of Poker room, a sports book, a full-service spa, one of the prettiest swimming pools you'll ever see, high-level bars and restaurants, a 2,500-seat state-of-the-art live entertainment theater, in a 40,000 square foot meeting room and convention space. This thing is going to be finished in 2024. What is that? 18 months from now? 20 months from now? Good God. Danville in Southwest Virginia is flexing its muscles. And it looks like a jacked guy on the beach or a smoke show in a bikini at the swimming pool. You got a designated outdoor refreshment area revitalizing downtown Danville. You got a $650 million casino that's going to have 500 hotel rooms, 1,300 slot machines, a World Series of Poker room, a 40,000 square foot meeting and convention center, bars and restaurants, a 2,500 person entertainment theater. You got new jobs being created left and right. They've partnered with the Wisconsin Development Company to revitalize a ghost town mill in Danville. And you got cost of living that's some of the lowest in the Commonwealth of Virginia. All this happening at the time where people are being able to work remotely more than ever before. You want to speculate and do some crystal balling? Who wants to bet that that land around downtown Danville and around this Caesars is going to be a gold mine years from now? Who would have speculated that Dairy Market would have done what it did to 10th and Page? And knowing now what you know about Dairy Market, does anyone not regret or think this question? Man, what if I had scooped up 5 or 6 of those houses around 10th and Page when they were $50,000 or $60,000? 65, 70K. That's what you could have gotten some of those homes around 10th and Page for at one time. Now, 3 to 400K around Dairy Market, 10th and Page. Comeback City is making a comeback, and it's making a comeback with a vengeance. Travis, thank you for sharing this with us today. What would you like to add in closing? I know you like more straight, pointed questions than that. What have you learned today? What is something that you would like to add that we also miss? And then I'll get to Jason Howard and some of these comments coming in. Travis, thank you for sending that to us.
Well, a local brewery, Decipher Brewing, won with their Kolsch. That's awesome. Congratulations to Decipher Brewing.
Decipher is very good. I love that. Good call, Judah.
And it's also, another way of getting Charlottesville on the beer map. And in sillier news, Norfolk officers seized 165, close to 166,000 pairs of sham socks.
What are shame socks?
I think they're socks that are, let's see, they were branded diabetic cotton socks. But I guess they were fake. I don't know. Very odd. Very strange.
They confiscated some socks.
A lot of socks.
Anything else? I appreciate you getting the photos up. I really do.
That's all I've got right now.
That's good. That's good. Job well done. Travis says Gordon Ramsay has been verified as having 2 restaurants in that casino in Danville.
Wow.
One of the most noteworthy. Who are the noteworthy celebrity chefs? Besides you, Curtis Shaver. Who are the noteworthy celebrity chefs in the world here? Gordon Ramsay, Bobby Filet, Curtis Shaver. Who else is in that mix? Gordon Ramsay, Bobby Filet. Who are the famous chefs?
Guy Fieri.
Yeah, he deserves it. Is Guy Fieri still a chef? He's kind of like a caricature of his former self. Wolfgang Puck.
Emerald.
Anthony Bourdain, rest in power, Anthony Bourdain. Rachel Ray. But I would say your most famous chefs in the world are what? Alive, and I'm saying alive. Chefs that are alive. You'd say Bobby Filet, right? I'll give you Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri's a great call. Gordon Ramsay, Bobby Filet, Rachel Ray, Curtis Shaver, Wolfgang Puck. Who are we missing? Gordon Ramsay's got 2 restaurants in Danville, Virginia. Think about that. The guy that we watch on FX has got 2 restaurants in Danville, Virginia. That's bananas, right?
He saw an opportunity and he took it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You know, sometimes the best place to put the business, you're developing a growing business, where Walmart and Target and Chick-fil-A did the market research and close to them. Because Walmart and Target and Chick-fil-A, they're not opening new locations unless there's the density of people to support them.
Yeah.
So some of our clients ride the coattails of Walmarts and Targets and Chick-fil-A's, and they open adjacent to or close to those locations.
Yeah.
I mean, Ramsay to Danville?
I mean, it is a Caesars casino.
Well, but I'm just saying,
it's pretty big time.
Southwestern Virginia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But it's a Caesars.
I wonder if Gordon Ramsay has any other restaurants in the Commonwealth. Curtis Shaver is the GOAT, Julian Freeman. He is the GOAT. The GOAT, Curtis, the GOAT. You would normally think Ramsay and Wolfgang Puck and Bobby Filet and Guy Fieri opening restaurants that are very much associated with their personal brands in areas like McLean, Georgetown, or maybe even Charlottesville proper. Danville, you would not initially think as homes to chefs of this iconic status. I bring this up to further reinforce my point that the comeback city is on fire.
Yeah.
So that's the Wednesday edition of this fine and fair talk show. Judah Wickower is our director. Oftentimes, in the moment, I can be a little harsh with Judah. I apologize. I just want the show to be great. I know you have a lot to offer, and there's tremendous perspective in that big and beautiful brain. I get that this form of talk and communication, long-form content, is becoming a part of your wheelhouse. I get that. And I think you've done a job well done.
Thank you. I do have you to contend with on the show.
We have a lot that we're each managing a lot of moving parts. Right?
Certainly.
I mean, I'm responding to 30 to 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, LinkedIn, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, TikTok, direct message, text message, email, Facebook message, all while hosting a talk show.
Yeah.
And you're doing a lot of stuff on the fly as well. All right, that's the show. We work hard for you. We hope you enjoy it. We may not always get along, but we have one thing in common. We work hard and we do it for the sake of putting out a quality product every day. For Judah Wickhauer, I'm Jerry Miller. Patty Zeller's What's Barking Locals at 3 o'clock. Thank you kindly for joining us. So long, everybody.